Howdy, all you delicious people. I'm here to review Quantum Leap Season 1, Episodes 5 and 6. So, in all honesty, I feel that Sam was the wrong guy that they hired for this job. To really have Sam, who probably has, the knowledge of, quantum mechanics and astrophysics, and he's a doctorate and whatever, but, how can you speak Italian? Can you be a veterinarian in this episode? Well, I guess we're gonna have to write him out of this episode with him being just tied to a woman for the next two episodes, which is both 5 and 6, and have nothing to do with Sam being really focused on his own thing that they have to romantically tie him in, and I was kind of really annoyed by that. So even Al was going on and having to help Sam throughout episode 6, and it just made Scott Bakula and both Sam look stupid. And that's the best thing that you should go on and try to do for a show, right? To make your main character look dumb, to where it's okay, what is the point of watching this when you're making your character just look like he has egg on his face consistently? Shouldn't this guy be the best suited for this job? Or otherwise you should have hired someone else. Honestly. So, granted, Song probably wasn't to be the best candidate either, but it seems that every leap that he's going into, he doesn't completely come off with egg on his face. It feels like he has to always have some workaround or some way to make him look good, instead of making Sam look like crap. So, with that said, I feel that episode 5 was fun. I liked this episode 5, but 6 was just too much of hey, this is a Godfather situation and this is a Hitman situation, but it never really goes anywhere close to that. It's just to be more on hey, Sam needs to speak Italian. That's the only thing that mafia types do. That's the only that's the one thing that mafia people do, just speak Italian all day, and that's it. Wow. How dumb was that? It really shows that that culture doesn't have much depth to it, and that's horrible, because they do. They have a ton. They have so much going on for them. So weirdly, I was trying to figure out how to I might have said something wrong, but then I try to correct it. Anyways, so we have, of course, Sam going on and leaping into 1956, where he is Dr. Daniel Young. And so Dr. Daniel Young is to be a veterinarian, but it won't really matter much in this episode, because Sam, throughout the whole episode, is really just supposed to be a cowboy guy that is working on a ranch. And why not just have him be a person that is working on a ranch? Because why waste time writing the whole veterinarian thing? To just state that Sam needed doctor skill in this episode. Really? Was that the whole crux of this entire episode? We could have really summed up Sam's doctor experience with he read a book once. And just be yeah, he saw the signs, because of course he read a book knowing that this is what Tess is having an issue with this episode. And so, because we have Sam, who is tied to a girl named Tess throughout the whole episode, and come to find out Sam's whole goal is to try to win this woman over, to just take the whole time to accomplish that goal to realize that something else is going to happen by the end of the episode. It's just, wow. But then we also turn around and go into episode 6, where Sam is to be a hitman for a mafia family. But that won't matter, because in the whole entire episode, we just have Sam that is tied to Teresa, who we find out is to has some connection to a guy named Gino, and we have now Sam at some points fearing for his life simply because he doesn't know Italian in this episode. And so, yeah. So, with that said, because that's all that matters. And then we have some goofy Back to the Future thing, and we have, like, Sam who is leaping into multiple people, and what difference does any of that make when you're a hitman and you could bang bang and shoot somebody? And the easiest way to go on and also feel that, like, Sam was way out of his character. Like, Sam wasn't at all, like, playing for a mafia kind of character, because in one scene we had Sam who is talking to Teresa about, like, the sky and astrophysics and all these star alignments and this and that, and I'm like, how is a mafia person gonna be talking about stars? Just, Sam is not playing to who he leaps into. Like, we even had it in the pilot episode where Sam, instead of going on and talking about planes with all the guys, and instead, like, Sam is talking about miniskirts and pantyhose and all these things from another time, because that's all he can go on and talk about. And I'm just like, man, this guy is just so out of his element. So, and it's becoming blatantly obvious now. So, let's go on and let's double five this bad boy up. It's about that time. Let me know how you feel about these episodes. If you're thinking that I'm way off, I probably am. If you're thinking I'm being too harsh, I probably am also. So either way, whatever you say, it's probably going to be like, well, yeah, I can agree with that. Even though it's wildly different than my own opinion. But I always want to be honest about everything. So with that said, or I don't realize or rationalize this stuff until, like, there's a collection of things all gathered together to just be like, wait a minute, like, this doesn't quite work now. Looking back, yeah, like, at the episodes compiling all together, a lot of this stuff doesn't make sense, but they roll with it. So, speaking of rolling with it, I think it's about the time to just go into spoiler time. It's about the time you spoil these episodes. So, let's go into it. We have Sam that leaps into Dr. Daniel Young, and he is holding this pig in his hands, and the pig's like, wait, and it's like, oh, I have a little pig here. Anyways, that was random. I know, right? But also, like, the pig matches my shirt, sort of. Anyways, so we have a little pig that is hoinking along, and so we have Sam who ends up dropping the pig, realizing he needs to scramble and pick up the pig, and so we have Tess and her father in this episode. We have Chance that is telling Tess, it's like, well, hey, you need to pick a man to be with. I think it's about time for you to settle down, Tess, and pop that baby out of that belly. He doesn't say that, but, like, really, like, what else are we thinking here? Like, this woman could just go on, continue to work on this ranch until she dies, if that's what she has planned. But it feels like Chance is like, no, you gotta find some man instead of some woman or some goat or some whatever that'll just make her happy for the rest of her life. She can go on and get, like, just she can adopt. She can go on and like get a donation and get pregnant that way. If you know what I mean. So if that's really the whole thing here, so Tess is to go on and state that it's like, well, there's no man on this ranch that's going to be as good as me, and so Tess is to go on and kind of look at all the suitors, and like Wayne is just kind of like, you're picking me, right? Because I was on the movie Roadhouse. We have Marshall R. Teague here, who, of course, I know him from the movie Roadhouse. And I thought that was like, yeah, like that was kind of cool to have him on this episode. So Tess is kind of looking at everybody, and we have like the white man can't jump kind of scenario where instead of Tess going on and looking at the most suited suitor here, she instead goes on to look at Sam, the veterinarian, and just be like, that one. And so Chance is like, really? That guy? And so Chance and Tessie just kind of all just start walking over by Sam to realize, like, well, hey, like, is that pig, like, is there something wrong with that pig? Is that pig all of a sudden going to be, like, so sick that it's going to infect all the others and we have to go and kill all of them off? Hey, guys, let's get all these guns together and let's start blowing away all these pigs. And Sam was like, no, like, that's not what's wrong with them at all. So, come to find out, we'll realize in this episode that the pig just has an allergy to whatever is going on in the barn, and so that's why the pig has to be like separated from all the other pigs. And then Tess is just like, well, like, I'll sell you the pig then, because for what you kind of helped me with, because reasonably if the pig is just gonna like die where they're at, it's like, well, then might as well just take the pig then. But so, getting a little ahead of myself. So we go on to, of course, have Chance that it's like, well, hey Sam, are you like willing to take on the challenge to take on my daughter Tess, to do all these Herculean tasks, the 12 Herculean tasks, so you can win over my Tess, but you really have to just do it better than she is. And so Sam is just like, well, I don't know about that. Like, I'm just going to focus on this pig. Because, of course, Sam, whenever he leaps into somebody, he just wants to be very, like, non-committal about anything. So we have chances like, well, just pick somebody else. And Tess is like, no, I want that one. You stated, like, anybody on the ranch, and that was anybody on the ranch. So we have Sam that goes on to take care of this pig, and we, of course, have a kid named Buddy, who we'll find out is Buddy Holly in this episode. And I thought, honestly, this kid was in a different episode. Like, I thought that this Buddy Holly kid, I thought he was in some, like, Halloween episode, but I guess that's me. Like, there was some episode where they went on to do some, like, Stephen King referenced episode, and come to find out by the end, oh no, maybe I'm confusing characters because they look similar. I think there was a whole, like, Stephen King themed episode, for, like, a Halloween thing, and then come to find out they didn't realize that at the end of the episode, like, the one kid that they were, like, with the whole entire time was Stephen King. It's like, oh, hey, look, that was Stephen King. It's like, oh my god! But maybe I got that confused, because Buddy Holly and Stephen King just look a lot alike, right? Anyways. So, we go on to have Buddy Holly, who's just kind of, like, drone away on this guitar, and he's, like, coming up with some kind of, like, limerick or some kind of, like, song for this episode. And later on in the episode, we have Buddy Holly, who's just kind of kind of just twiddling away. And so we had Buddy Holly that goes on to hear Sam like asking for the piggy, because they just called the pig Piggy. And so Buddy Holly ends up doing this song called Pig Sue, Pig Sue. Uh, oh, I love you, Piggy Sue, oh, Piggy. And then we go on to have Al that turns to Sam and is like, well, you know what? How about you just kind of try to like adjust uh, for this kid and like just kind of come up with your own input. And so Sam is to go on and tell Bobby, how about you go on and say Peggy instead of Piggy? And so all of a sudden he ends up doing the like my Peggy Sue, yeah. And then come to find out, we realize that uh, Peggy Sue is to be Buddy Holly's hit. And also, when looking at it, I really don't believe that we really have any of these artists that have that connection of that story. Like they historically looked it up and was like, oh yeah, like Buddy Holly was on a farm and he like uh, got this suggestion from this guy to make up this song. No, they're just trying to make their own goofy historical connections to things, because if they did look that up, I'd be like, wow, that actually is exciting, but I don't think they really did. I think that was just some goofy thing that they could have some celebrity in some way like getting their backstory or their connection via some goofy thing. So going into this episode, we have Sam that is to consistently be more and more hesitant about doing anything with Tess or that family, but it seems more and more that he ends up kind of getting forced into doing it. So Sam goes on and is to need to do ranching duties. So I said duty. So the first thing that Sam is to go on and do is to jump on this one horse and ride it. And maybe he's supposed to ride it better than Tess is. And so, come to find out, we have Sam, via Wayne's suggestion, it's like, oh no, don't get on that horse because it's not mounted yet. Like, just go on and do this other horse, which come to find out is like to be the Widowmaker horse. So, Sam jumps on this horse, and all of a sudden the horse starts bucking him off and goes crazy. And Sam ends up getting tossed off to the side. So Sam is like, I got worked here. So they go on and they tell Sam, it's like, hey, don't you know that Tess is to be the only one that can ride this horse? And then score 1 point for Tess over Sam. So we turn around and then have them play poker. And so this is, of course, when Al arrives, and we, of course, desperately have Sam, who's asking Al, it's like, well, hey, why am I here? What am I doing here? Yada, yada, yada. So, as well as, like, Sam, I think when he is to be taking care of this pig, that's when Al is kind of telling him things. So, come to find out, the main reason that Sam is leaped into this person is because whoever is to have gone on and been writing Tess letters is the person that she will fall in love with. There's a whole trick to that, and we'll figure that out by the end of this episode. And so Sam is going on and playing cards with the guys and with Tess and everybody. And come to find out, Al is to realize that Wayne is to have too good of a hand, and that there's no way that Sam is going to beat him, and so Sam might as well fold. But Al is to also tell Sam that Al has been cheating. So Sam goes and confronts Wayne about cheating, and come to find out, when Sam is to get very upset, like, oh, I wasn't cheating, blah, 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 blah. Like, Wayne ends up kind of just standing up, and they're like, well, there's only one way to know if he was cheating or not, and it would be if Sam could go on and predict what cards Wayne had. So they end up kind of tossing the cards around and find out that the cards weren't really what Sam stated. And so now, what ended up actually happening is that Tess had the better hand. And so Al is like, oh, I get what they did here. We had both Tess and Wayne working together so that way Wayne can help Tess win at this poker game. So that way it would be another point to Tess. And so Sam wouldn't be able to catch up. So really what they're trying to do is they're trying to cheat their way through here so Sam will not win at any point. So we then go on to have Tess and Sam, and they're putting these posts up, they're putting these fences up, and whatever. And so it seems we go on to have Tess, who is continuously trying to just do better than Sam, and Tess is starting to get exhausted. And all of a sudden Sam is just like, well, hey, like, how about you take a break, because it's obviously like you can't go on anymore. And Tess is like, well, hey, like, no man could do anything better than me. And like Sam is like, that's not what I'm saying here. Like, there might be jobs that a man might do better than a woman, but still, like, that's not what we're trying to do here. That's not what we're trying to say in this episode. Come on, Tess, that's not what we're trying to do. Come on. So we all of a sudden have Tess faint, and so Sam is just like, well, like, let's just kind of toss her over my shoulder. Let's run her off to my house and just kind of strip her down, because we're gonna try to get her as cold as humanly possible. We have Buddy Holly that is grabbing this fan and grabbing this salt water so that way Tess will drink all of this. So Sam has already come up with a way to help this girl out, and so like Tess quickly revives as she's getting now like declothed, and now is to have Tess all just wanting to like kind of throw a blanket over herself, and Sam is like, go ahead, keep throwing clothes over yourself, because if you just get sicker and sicker, I'm just gonna like strip you completely down. And because she's already just in her underwear, it's like Sam's like, I'm gonna strip you completely down so like you'll be okay. And so Tess is just like, well, okay, all right, like so Sam is asking Tess, it's like, well, hey, would you be comfortable if Buddy leaves? And Tess is like, yeah, I'd probably be more comfortable. And so Buddy's like, okay, I'm gone. So we have Sam and we have Tess, and Sam is really just telling Tess here that there isn't any real reason for him wanting to benefit from like being with Tess, other than he really like the guy that Sam has leaped into has had feelings for her, and so he wants to go on and like express them, but he's been too shy. But so Sam and Tess are to go on and dance here, even though it seems that there's not much of music here, because Tess is feeling better. And so Sam ends up giving Tess this journal that Daniel Young has written to talk about his feelings for Tess. And so now Tess is just like, ah, like kind of swooning and just be like, well, like maybe I was wrong about this guy. Like maybe we could work this out. And so we have this all just really kind of leading up to the point of everything is kind of tied up between both Sam and both Tess, and now they need a tiebreaker. And Tess's estate, well, tomorrow is church, and you're not going to outpray me now, are you? And Sam is just like, well, no, but we have to have a tiebreaker. You have to give me that. And Tess is like, well, if you can't go on and ride like the Widowmaker, then like you can't go on and beat me. So Sam, after Tess and her family is to go off to church, we have Sam that goes on and is to get the Widowmaker out. And so Sam is hoping that Al is going to comfort this horse somehow. Is to horse whisper her. Because Al, it seems, is to have a certain specific effect on animals. And we find that out also in this episode when Al is with all those animals and it realizes that the raccoon can see Al. And Al's like, well, yeah, I guess this does work for for animals to see me, and we'll come to find out young kids will also see Al at some point also, which will help for the story. But so we have Sam that goes on to have Al try to be this horse whisperer kind of character, but then Al all of a sudden is to get a phone call that Gushy is to tell him about, and it's coming from Tina. Because supposedly in this episode, I think we end up finding out that Al is to realize that Tina is possibly cheating on him. And Sam is like, no, you don't say. Because we have had in other episodes where it seems that Al is cheating on Tina with another woman, specifically while Al is sleeping. The one episode, it seems that Al is sleeping on sleeping with another woman, and then Tina is going on and finding out. So we have Al that ends up having to get a phone call that relates to Tina, and so Al completely leaves his imaging chamber to take this phone call. So Sam is now left on his own to now wrangle in this horse, or Sam ends up just staying on the horse long enough to just justify that he has maybe like broken this horse. And so Sam finally then gets off of it as the horse is done kicking and done jumping. And so now Chance is telling Sam, it's like, well, you won my daughter. And Sam is like, well, that's not what I was here for. Like, I was here just to know that I could do that, and it wasn't for your daughter. And so Sam just walks off and I'm like, yeah, what a badass. Yeah, yeah. Like, I didn't do it for her, I did it for me. Yeah. I can do it all by myself. So Sam leaves, and all of a sudden Tess like comes to Sam, and it's like, well, like, technically you did win me over, so like we go on and we have Sam and Tess being together, but then Wayne ends up coming by, and he's like, well, I don't know what is between you two, but hey, like, I love you. Wayne is like, I love you, and I wrote you all these letters, and here you go. And now we're just like, what? There is to be a little bit of a thing here, a little bit of a twist. Come to find out, Tess is to go on and resolve all this by like, okay, Tess and Wayne are gonna just dance it out, and if it seems that Tess and Wayne like are better dancers together, then Sam, you're gonna be coming off with egg on your face. And come to find out, that ends up being what it ends up being. As Wayne is to mention to Tess that he doesn't think that he can dance whatsoever, and Tess is like, no, that's fine. And so both Tess and Wayne start dancing, and we have Tess who picks Wayne. Because in all technicality, Wayne had wrote him letters, where Sam had just wrote Tess things in a journal. Completely different things. Even though they're the same, completely different things. Because the guy had letters, so that perfectly fit. So, and that was kind of like, that was, like, I liked that. Where you thought that, like, okay, like, it's definitely going to be Sam, and then you find out, like, the thing that perfectly ties to what Al said is another person, and then boom, you have that little turn there, that little switch. That it's like, oh no, like the perfect person is to actually be so and so. So Sam realized that he's going to lose Tess, but he's fine about it because maybe at least Daniel will get more respected somewhere down the road as Daniel is to go on and accomplish all these things, and maybe these guys won't give him crap every time he comes around. So, with that said, that of course is to be the thing of this episode, and then Sam goes on to after he is to go on and try to find this pig and talk to Buddy Holly and comes up with the Peggy Sue song. We have Sam go off and leap into, of course, the next episode, which is to, of course, be the double identity episode. So we have Sam, who is Frankie, who has leaped into the aftermath of him sleeping with some woman in the attic, or banging somebody in the attic. And we had Teresa that goes on and states to Sam's character, it's like, oh man, that was so good. It's like, if I'm lying, I'm dying. And throughout the whole entire episode, every time this woman talks, she has to say that if I'm lying, I'm dying line consistently, to the point to where Sam is like, if I'm lying, I'm dying, right? If I'm lying, I'm dying, guys. I'm just doing it, you know? I'm just lying and dying. Anyways, so we have Sam, who is to get his way out of the attic. And come to find out, we realize that he's a hitman because he has a gun in the attic. And Al is to state to Sam, it's like, well, yeah, that's your gun. And so Sam is like, all right. So Sam goes off to this wedding, and we come to find out that it's Primo La Palma's wedding, and somehow or another, we had Primo, who ended up getting married to who he was getting married to, because Sam's character Frankie said that it was a good idea. But so we have Sam that is to be kind of forced up to this stage, because we have the bride who is to suggest that Frankie is to go on and sing this this Italian song, and because he's going to be the best one to be able to sing it. So Sam goes up there and is like, I don't know this Italian song, I don't know how to sing it, this freaking sucks. So all of a sudden Al is to now like come into fray here, and is to, oh, and this is also the episode where Al is telling Sam that Ziggy is going through this like power saving time where they don't really know what Sam is really here to do, because they have a very bare minimum amount of information that Ziggy is to come up with. And so, come to find out, Al is suffering from like a wide variety of different temperatures, because Al, of course, is to have his headquarters, or his imaging chamber is to be in the desert. So Al is getting very hot in the day, but in the night, he of course is getting very cold. So we'll go on and see that Al is kind of sweating it out. He has his fan that's kind of blowing on his face. And so also we start to realize that, like, has the hand link of Al like changed from episode to episode? Or has he not had a hand link for a lot of these episodes? Because I think we'll start to see the hand link drastically change through seasons and through things. Because of course, like, we end up seeing the hand link kind of just looking like this see-through thing, and we end up, like, in the later on parts of the season, we end up having the hand link looking more like a Rubik's cube kind of goofy looking shaped like hand link. So that ends up going on to look at what the hand link is to look like in the Quantum Leap 2022 somewhat. So anyways, as far as them presenting what Al's hand link looked like, except for the colors. So anyways, so a lot of people will be like, well, wait a minute, what was he talking about in the Quantum Leap 2022 about the goofy looking hand link that doesn't look like the same color? Like, this hand link looks nothing like what it looks like in the... I know, but it gets there. So with that said, just give me some leeway. Because I just realized about, like, Al's goofy hand link and how it doesn't look the same. It's like the see-through thing that I think Addison technically has that similar kind of thing. But you would think with all the hand links that they have seen in the other show, they would try to mimic what that... Whatever. It's just... Anyways. So, you would think it would be similar, but it has to be its own show also. So with that said, we have Al that is helping Sam sing this song and knows all the words. And so Sam is to get to a point where he's like, oh, okay, well, I can sing all these words. I'm not going to state them because, like, I'm not going to butcher them also. Like, that's the thing where if I had to go on and speak a song in a different language, I wouldn't be able to do it. Like, I think I would just be like, I'm going to butcher these words. I can't go on and much well, like, say names of things properly, or, like, I can never remember names of things. So, like, if I were to have gone on to a Quantum Leap show, they would have to, like, drastically figure out a way to, like, write me in. They would have to, like, go on and just, like, if I was the main character, like, I would just be, like, the worst actor that they probably could have gone on and had. Of like, hey, man, you said these lines, but you didn't say them in the way that I wanted you to say them. Or, like, hey, man, like, you, like, were trying to obviously, like, try to write around that you can't say names of things, so you're just saying, that guy! Why can't you just say that his name is Steve? It's like, well, I'm bad at remembering names. Like, I know faces better than names. Like, work with me here. I'm a very visual person. So we turn around and have Sam, who finally gets the song, and it seems that he sings it better than he did like the mumbling first time around. He's like, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, those are the words, right? So, like the Evil Dead way of doing things. So, we had Al that is to keep helping Sam out whenever he's need to speak Italian here, because he'll keep doing that more than just this one time. So, Sam ends up going on after this whole wedding is done and over with, and we're thinking that okay, this is where Sam is going to go on and start doing the hitman thing, right? Like we've gone past the whole Sam going on and having the woman that he shook in, right? No. So we also had Teresa who was talking to Gino, and we kind of have Gino who is asking Teresa, it's like, well, hey, like, well, you're my girl, right? Like, you're mine, right? And like Teresa's like, well, of course I'm yours, but I'm also Frankie's, but I won't tell you that. Because of course we had uh, Adriano who tells Gino that he misplaced Teresa for like 20 some odd minutes. Like she had lost him, and so Adriano tells Don Gino, it's like, well, hey, she's trying to she's sneaking away for something, and so Don Gino ends up confronting Teresa about this, and so she's like, no, like I'm still your gal, and still this, and so. But let's push on here. So we have Frankie that goes on with Primo and Segundo, I believe. And so we have the two of them kind of walking around with Sam, and they end up mentioning that Primo was only married to the woman that he ends up getting married to because of Sam. Already stated that. So they're walking along, and all of a sudden we have Sam who is looking into this beauty salon, and so Sam is just like, you know what, I'm kind of getting a little thick in the sides. Like I think I want to go on and just get a little trim. And then Sam goes on into the beauty salon, and all the women are like, oh my god, a man in a beauty salon? How dare he? Kind of thing. So Sam has stated, it's like, well, like, it's only a matter of time. Like, it's a year from now where, like, men are going to go on into beauty salons anyways and get their hair cut. Because, like, barber shops will start to really dwindle down, and there's only going to be so many like barber shops around. There's only going to be so many men who are going to cut hair nowadays. Yada yada yada. I cut my own hair, and it obviously looks that way. But so, anyways, like yeah, I cut my own hair. Like I try to avoid spending any kind of like extra money, and like hair cutting is one of those. So we have Sam that goes into this beauty salon, and Teresa's like, "Oh my god, you're in this beauty salon," and like, isn't Gino or anybody gonna figure something's up? And so Sam is like, "I don't care. Like, I just want to get my hair cut. Like, it doesn't matter to me." We go on and have Teresa, who was cutting some woman's hair, and it ends up looking like a beehive, and and Sam even mentions that. So Sam sits down, and so we have now like Don Genie, who is hearing that it's like, well, hey, like Frankie's getting his hair cut in the beauty salon, and Don Gino's like, well, there must be something up. So we have Tony LaPalma, who is actually Frankie LaPalma's father, who comes in his wheelchair and is spotting that, like, okay, like his son is going into this beauty salon, and so Tony is to justify to Don Gino that it's like, well, hey, like, I'm sure there's obviously a reason my son had went in there, because think about it, like, all these women in this beauty salon just want to all day long just want to gossip and spill the beans. So Tony is telling Don Gino that, like, all the more reason for Frankie to go in there and to see if he was to get any intel. And so Tony is thinking that somebody's going to spill the beans, and so it has to go on and have Frankie justify being in there. And so we have Sam who goes to shampoo his hair, and we have Teresa who's like shampooing Sam's hair, and is going on and talking about how they feel about one another, and how like Teresa was talking about how she feels about Frankie, and like and how she really is to think that the both of them should be together, and so on and so forth. So we have finally where Sam is gonna seemingly get his hair cut, and then Don Gino comes in and is to want to give Frankie a shave. And so Don Gino asks for like a straight razor, and Teresa's like, well, we don't have that here. Like, all we have is this little kind of chintzy little thing. So Don Gino just takes this like razor blade to Sam's neck. And so now Don Gino is asking Sam, it's like, well, hey, like, what are you really here for? Like, who brought you in here? And Don Gino wants Sam to answer him in Italian, and Sam is like, I don't know how to answer this. No, yes, So Al comes in, and Al is just like, tell Don Gino this. And so they end up having to repeat it to where, like, Sam is to state that, that Tony was to come up with the idea that, really like Sam was trying to be very respectful and this and that, and like Al keeps going on and on and on in Italian, and Sam at one point is to stop Al and just be like, really, you want me to state all of that? And Al is like, oh, like, I mean, state this. And then it's just like, oh, okay, it kind of like has Don Gino just being okay with that answer, and then Sam was like, all right, like like, okay, like I convinced him through whatever Al like told me to say. So Sam then goes off, and then Tony's like, hey, is everything okay? And like Sam is just like, yeah. So we go off to have Sam starting to talk to Tony, and they're kind of wheeling him around. And so we have Tony talking about Don Gino's family. And even at one point, Sam is to state, it's like, well, like, Don Gino is kind of sleeping around on somebody also. And Tony's like, like, really? Like, I don't think he's that kind of guy. And Sam was like, so because Don Gino is cheating on his wife with Teresa. So, like, that's the whole implication here. It's like, well, like, if Frankie can go on and kind of nab Teresa, like, Don Gino is also cheating around on or with Teresa also. So yeah. So anyways, so now we have Al that is to figure out that there's a possibility that Sam could get retrieved here, but perfect things need to end up in perfect timing to follow Ziggy's kind of things to put together in all perfect order to have this all work out. So Sam is to have Primo and the guy that he's with go off to this one home to plug in on the outside of this house some hair dryer, some hair blower, some handheld thing. And Sam is to also be with Teresa where he initially leaped at, doing the same thing that he was doing like when he leaped. So basically, Sam has to figure out how to pull Teresa back into Don Gino's attic to sleep with her again, so that way Sam could be retrieved here. So Sam calls up Teresa and is trying to tell her, hey, yeah, we need to go back into Don Gino's attic. And Teresa's like, well, why? Like, we can go and get intimate together anywhere. Like, we can sleep anywhere. Like, remember that one time that we were here? Remember the one time we were here? Sam was like, yeah. Like, you were great in all those places, but, like, in that attic, though, like, like, you were something. You were awesome. And Teresa's like, awesome? And Sam is like, yeah, it's an expression. So Teresa's like, okay then, like, let's go on and let's go back in this attic. So again, we have Teresa here who ends up getting caught by one of Don Gino's men to just be like, well, hey, like, I saw Teresa kind of sneaking around. So Don Gino's like, well, hey, I'm gonna resolve all this. I'm gonna go on and finally like get this all done and over with. So Don goes on to get this silencer and is make his way into his attic to figure out, like, well, hey, these two must be sleeping together, Frankie and Teresa. So Don makes his way to this attic after we have Sam and Teresa getting a little hot and heavy, but then Sam goes on and points out all these kind of these stars and all these things in the sky, and Sam is stating to Teresa that there has to be, like, perfect alignment for them to go on and do this again. Basically stating that Sam is to state that they need to do this at the perfect time, which is to be the time for Sam to be able to leap. And for these guys to try to pull off the whole hand blower thing at that same exact time. So when Primo does go on and turn on this hand blower, all of a sudden we have this massive power surge that is to be in the town that they are in, and Sam is going on and trying to sleep with Teresa, but then Don Gino is to come in with a silencer and it's like, hey, I know something was up here. I know there was something between the two of you. So we have Sam that goes on to rustle the gun out of Don Gino, and they end up fighting one another. And so what ends up happening is Sam ends up leaping into Don Gino. And so now Sam, who is now Don Gino, is like, well, hey, now I have to figure out how I can just go on and have the two of you, like, run off together and fall in love. And it'll be accepted by Don Gino. And come to find out, Tony had wanted to tell Frankie, which he did, that Frankie needs to go off to go to this bingo thing with his mother? Sure. Because, of course, Frankie is her good luck charm, and so what happens is we have now Don Gino who's realizing about the whole church thing. So we have Don Gino that runs off to the church to tell the priest that Don Gino wants the priest to announce that there is going to be a wedding for both Teresa and both Frankie, and so that could put it in motion that if these two were to end up dead, it will look very weird. and also that Don Gino would be there to be the person who was to be connected to this. And so, yeah, so we also had Don Gino that was to tell Frankie that he's no longer being a hitman, that he's given up that, he's going to give up that and go straight. And so, if we didn't have this guy be a hitman whatsoever, anyways, we're not going to at all, anyways. He never killed a single soul in this episode, but he's not going to, anyways, because why would he? So, we then turn around and have one last thing that Don Gino is going to do before he leaps. And that, of course, is to say the last bingo thing that he is going to state. So that way this one woman can call out bingo. The woman that Frankie was supposed to be with. So now we go on into the next leap where Sam is leaping into a guy named Jesse Tyler. And from what I can possibly remember about this is, like, I think this ends up dealing somewhat with kind of like a Driving Miss Daisy kind of episode. I could be wrong about that. But also, I think here we again maybe have maybe some race stuff kind of going on maybe in this episode. I'm not quite sure. So for those of you people that may be offended by that, or more than likely I might have offended you anyways throughout any number of this episode, from whatever I was to go on and state here, I do apologize. But either way, I'm going to go on and try to get out of here so I can make this video a lot shorter than what it normally is. So let me know in the comments below if there's anything that I forgot about. There might be some details, like Al, when he ends up showing up again, he ends up showing up in this very thick, like winter, like wardrobe. And so we have then Sam that's going on and stating like, well, hey, like, are you feeling a lot warmer now? And so Al goes on and states like, well, it's the desert, it's really cold at night. And so Al is stating that it, like, all will be right like tomorrow, and so everything will be back to normal, of course, on the next episode. So I think Tina ran away with Gushy, and I think that was the whole part of the story also, that Tina had run away with Gushy, and like, so Al is kind of dealing in one of these episodes with like Tina cheating on him, and it ends up being with Gushy. Is that true? You can correct me. But either way, I'm going to say I'm going to get out of here. Goodbye, everybody. Goodbye, everybody.